Welcome back everyone. In today's video I will be showing you how I modified my Nerf Ultra Select. The Ultra Select is a fully automatic flywheel blaster. The cool thing about it and its whole gimmick is that it has these two magazines instead of just the one, and the front foregrip knocks them back and forth so you can select between the different mags. And originally it came with two different types of Ultra darts and you could select between the two, but I just run Nerf Ultra Accuracy darts because they're superior to the regular darts. So for me, I just have a really cool way to switch between two magazines of the same darts. And the biggest upside on that for me, since we're talking about the Select here a little bit, is I like to start on the left magazine and shoot, and then when I need to reload, I can shift to the other, drop that magazine, get another, and reload it, all while having all of my darts still available from the other magazine in case I'm in the middle of a game and I need to shoot while reloading. I'm not vulnerable during that time, which is a really cool feature of the Ultra Select. So I decided, since it's a cool gun and I like modifying things, why not modify it? Now, this video is going to be two videos. One is going to be the long version, and one is the short version. I don't know which one you're watching right now, but you know, it'll be the title of the video. But if you're in the short version, we're going to skip the long, in-depth how-to of how I modified this, and if you're in the long version, first off, thank you for watching a long video, but I will be showing you exactly how I modified this blaster. But for everyone, what I did is I took the 6C batteries that this thing normally runs off of, those big heavy guys, and I removed them, and I soldered in a connector. Oh, didn't get that all the way. And I soldered in a connector for an 11-1 Lipo battery or a 7-4, depending on what you want to run. But I've been running for this video my 11.1 3-cell, and I just soldered it in right there. If you're watching the short version, you're not going to see me do that. But if you are watching the long version, I'll probably cut right now to me doing that full modification. Alright, here we are with the Ultra Select, and we're going to start doing our modding here. But first, I'd like to say this is the first time I've ever tried to film like this, so sorry if the angle's not great. I'm going to do my best. Alright, so what we're going to be doing to this blaster is soldering in a mini Tamiya plug, and the reason I'm using this is because that's what comes on the Lipos that I use, and it just makes it easy. So we're going to be going with this connector, and the first thing we have to do is open up this battery compartment and see what we're working with. Alright, this is our battery compartment, and as you can see we're running off of 6C batteries, so 9 volts. So our upgrade is going to be a 3-cell 11.1 Lipo, which will give us a little bit more voltage, but a lot more consistency in voltage. Okay, first thing we need to do is get these batteries out. Get those up out of the way. Alright, as you can see, this is our battery tray. Holds the 6 batteries here. So the first thing I'm going to try to do is modify this without having to open up the entire blaster. So we're probably going to run our battery connection leads right off of the connectors in here that attach to the battery. So to find the ones that we need to use, as you probably saw earlier, there are the little indentions, or little markings, so you can tell which way you're supposed to put in the batteries, but this guy was oriented like that, and this was oriented like this, and I'm assuming that our circuit follows along a U shape right here, and this back piece just being a connector between the back two batteries. So if my guess is correct, this will be our negative terminal, And in here will be our positive terminal. And to test that, I'm going to take our mini Tamiya here, and I'm going to press on either side. I could be using a multimeter, but I don't have one with me. But I'm going to touch this to either side, making contact, and see if it will rev up. Now, I'm about to plug in a Lipo to test this. If you're new to this, do not let these two ends touch while a Lipo is connected to it, or you will get sparks and you can hurt yourself, so don't do that. I'm just doing this to test and make sure this is the correct orientation. So I will make sure those never touch each other. I'll hold them like such and hit my rev trigger. Oh, get on there. And as you can see, we found the correct way to do this. Keeping those from touching again, I will remove my battery from the connector. So we have the correct terminals there. We just need to find a way to solder this connector in there. And before we do that, we should also check to see if we can even get this battery compartment to work with our battery. So as you can see, it's plenty big in this compartment to fit the battery. Even with the connector, we'll have plenty of space. I will probably have to remove these battery dividers, but that's not a big deal. I'll just break them off, and our battery will fit in there completely fine, and it'll look completely stock once we're done. So let's get into this and figure out how we're going to do it. I will say one word. If you are buying these connectors or any connectors online for cheap, make sure that their wires are correctly colored to the right polarity. And you can check that with your battery, get it to where it will plug in the correct way, and make sure your red is on red and black is on black. Because I have bought these cheaply and got them and they were completely backwards, and I've soldered them up and found out that you're running your voltage backwards. So make sure to check that before you commit to using it. Alright, I'm going to be stripping these wires back so that I have a little bit more wire to work with on either side. Okay, there we go. Next, let's make sure I can get in there. Oh yeah, I can get a solid joint onto that. If you can't see, let me just try to get this on camera. As you can see inside there, there's a coil that the positive end of the C battery connects to normally, and I'm just going to solder directly onto that for my positive end. So before we start, I will show you everything that I'm using. I have a soldering iron already plugged in and heated up. You already saw my wire strippers. I have a pair of clippers, the battery lead, of course, solder, heat shrink, my favorite thing to use whenever I'm doing electronics. I have my screwdrivers and stuff, and of course some extra bits of wire if I need them. Also, with the heat shrink, what that does is it's an insulative barrier you put around the connections of your wires, and you add heat to it and it'll shrink around it and hold it really tight and make sure that you can't short your wires or anything like that. Normally I'd be using a heat gun to shrink that, but I can't find my heat gun at the moment, so I'm going to be using matches. I suggest using a heat gun or a lighter, but matches will work, and that's all I have. So that's what I'll be using. So first, I think I'm going to start with the harder connector and try to get this positive connected to that coil. I'm going to find a good spot for it. I like it about right there. If you've never soldered before, there are plenty of videos on YouTube with in-depth tutorials on soldering, so please watch one of those. I bet you they have much better camera angles to show you what's going on. But basically what you're doing is you're adding heat with your soldering iron to the two pieces of the connector and pressing in solder, which will melt and connect the connectors together. So that's what we're going to be doing here, and I think that's going to sit in there just fine. So we're gonna give this, ooh, sorry, I almost forgot. We need to prepare our heat shrink. And you're gonna need to put the heat shrink on first because once this is connected to the connector here, there's no way to get the heat shrink on it because it is a tube, so we need to put that on beforehand. And I'm going to use probably some 3/16 here. Might be a little big. Let's see if we can get away with 1/8. Which is, that's gonna be too tight. So we will use 3/16. Now I don't need this entire length. Probably need, we'll cut off a little bit. It's better to use a little more than not enough. So we're just going to slide that on. Oh, get in frame here. Gonna slide that on beforehand. Now you do need to, oh, there's my clock. We'll let that do its thing before I continue talking. All right. You do need to make sure not to overheat the wire. If the heat from your soldering iron travels up too far, it will heat up your heat shrink beforehand and shrink it, and it will be unusable. But we are going to try to avoid that. This is pre-soldered a little bit, which will probably help. So we're just going to get in here, add heat to both elements. Then add in some solder. Don't think we got a great connection on that one. Make sure to work in a well-ventilated area. And don't breathe in if a bunch of that solder smoke is heading towards your face. Okay, I'll let that cool for just a second, and then I will test the connection by pulling on it to make sure it's not going to snap off. Just a moment to cool, and then, oh yeah, that's not going anywhere. We have a good connection. And as you should always do before moving on in your project when you're working with electronics, I am going to test and make sure that it is still working. And it is. So we have a good solid connection that isn't going to break on that side. As you can see in there, it is. Yeah, I hope you can see it's soldered. We're going to push that heat shrink down around the connection. And this is not the best place to be using matches. The heat gun will work way better in here. But we're going to try and shrink this down around that wire. All right, that was quite successful. As you can see, let's get it in there. Oh, there's the shot. I'm not used to this. We have a nice tight wire net down around the connection, so it's going to be very hard to short something on that. Very good. Nice and warm to the touch still. All right, we're halfway there already. So next, this is actually the easier one because we have that full exposed coil. We're going to be soldering this negative side onto there. Do I want to stick it up through? I'll probably just stick it down through the coil like that so I can get a connection on both sides of it and get it nice and tight. But before we do that, we need our heat shrink again, and I don't think we need as much on this one. And we could also go through the front of the spring if we wanted, if we can get it through. I don't know if we can get it through there. Doesn't look like it. We'd have to bend some wiring. We could also lay it on top and then use a big piece to cover the whole thing. We might try that. If we can get it to cooperate. Yeah, we're gonna go for it. Might as well. I'm gonna add a piece of the 3/16 to cover, and then I'm going to use a bit of quarter to kind of size it down. between this bit of, what is this? 3/8, this nice big piece that will hopefully go around that entire spring, like so, and then shrink down and give us a really, really protected connection. So let's put those all on in order, starting with the smallest. Put this guy over, and this over those. And hopefully none of those take too much heat, and this goes off without a hitch. Just need that to stay there. I don't have any clippies or anything with me, although I could use, might be able to use the battery itself to hold this wire right in place where I want it. Right there. Yes, also, don't use lipos around too much heat. That's dangerous, so don't do this. Okay. We're gonna add our heat in right here. Oh. This is where it's nice to have clips. Or a third hand would be nice to hold this right in place. Let's try this again. Get a lot of heat in there. Okay, I think we got a little bit there and that should hold it, but I want more than one connection place, so I'm going to come up here. Add a bunch more solder right there. We're going to let that cool. Looks like we got a pretty solid connection in there. I'll test it in just a second, but that's what we're working with. And we'll give it a nice tug. Oh yeah, that is not going anywhere. And give that a moment to cool before we put our heat shrink tubing down around it, because if you move a little too fast and get that tighter heat shrink down when it's still warm, it will shrink and you won't be able to get it in the exact place that you want. So we'll let this cool just a little bit more. Yeah, that's fairly cool now. We'll start with the smallest piece of tubing, hopefully. Where is it? You inside of that one? Oh, we're going to push these down in order and make sure that one gets over everything we want it to get over. There it is. And then as you can see, we have the 3 tubings all in order covering up that entire connection, and they should seal on top of each other to make this a nice, tight, protected connection. All right. Gonna start this underneath. Sorry if my hand is blocking. That nice and hot on all sides. And while that is still warm, I can squeeze in right there to make it form exactly how I want it to. And now you can see a nice tight connection all the way down, and that'll protect that lead and make sure nothing has a chance to short on that lead. Let that cool for a moment. Okay, last but not least, or for this part, we're going to plug in our battery and test. We're still working great. Connection's nice and solid, protected from shorts, and it's getting current through it. So, that is the actual battery mod itself done. Now we just need to make it to where the battery can get into the chamber. And I think I'm going to use the top part as my battery hold, and it looks like I'll just need to remove, could do the bottom since there's no spring there. Yeah, why not? We're gonna use this bottom piece. And it looks like I'll just need to remove one of these tabs to do that. Let's see how easy they are to break. Fold it back and forth a few times. You might even get it to lay down out of the way without having to break it off. They're pretty flimsy. Yeah, and our battery can fit right down in there. Connect up. And we can tuck the wires. Get all of that out of the way. And let's see. Oh yeah, nice and easy. Didn't even have to break that off. Get our screwdriver. If you have to push down too hard to get the top on, don't do it. You can be crushing your wires and that is not good, but this takes nothing at all. It's just the springiness of that little divider trying to push the battery up, which could hold it in place nice and tight. And we're all finished here. We're ready to go. Voltage is working, nice and tight, all checked, and I think that's it. And one of the good side effects, I should say, the main reason is to get the voltage and the current properties of the Lipo battery, but the weight difference between this and it's rechargeable is another good thing. The weight difference between this little battery and this is significant. These are probably half the weight of the blaster when they're inside of there, and now we just have this light guy, so it's going to be a lot more maneuverable and lighter and less fatigue on you, so benefits all around from this. That's how you solder in a Lipo battery connector for your Nerf gun. Alright, next thing to do is to take this out and see how it performs. I will first be showing you how it performs stock off of those C batteries, and then I'll be showing you what the modification does and how much it improves the blaster. So, I'll see you when you're back. Stock Ultra 1 with the Ultra Accuracy darts. Ultra Select with 11-1 Lipo shooting the Ultra Accuracy darts. Well, we're back, and as you can see, there's a pretty big difference between the stock and the modded version of the Select. I did Chronograph before and after, and the factory Ultra Select shoots at about 83 FPS on my Chronograph, and afterwards it didn't pick up a huge amount of extra speed velocity-wise. We brought it up to 94, so over 10 FPS, which is solid, and it brings the Select up into the normal range of the other Ultra Blasters. They all shoot around 90, so this one is actually competitive velocity-wise with the other Ultras now, but the big difference that you could probably see in that video was with how many darts per second it shoots. Factory on the 6C batteries, it shoots 2.2 darts per second is what I counted, and afterwards it shoots 4.8, so we more than doubled the rate of fire of this blaster with this mod. And that is the biggest game changer for me. Before, I mean, you can see in the video, it's pretty slow, but now it's a true, fully automatic, fast-firing blaster. And the fact that it can carry both magazines and you can reload one while still being able to shoot the other makes it a great choice for a field blaster if this is something that you're looking for and you like the Ultra line. I can't not recommend using this now, just because you have the standard Ultra mag, which you probably have a lot of if you collect Ultra, and being able to reload while still shooting the other is great, and the new rate of fire and velocity. Overall, great mod. Also, you lose quite a bit of weight going from the C's to the Lipo, and it's a lot easier to move around now, and you're not lugging around all that extra weight in batteries. So, overall, very successful mod. Pretty easy. If you're watching the long version, I hope my explanation and walkthrough of what exactly I did was... I hope it helped. And if you didn't watch that, go watch it, please. But if you didn't watch that, you can still do this mod for yourself. It's not very hard, and if you do need a step-by-step guide, I have one, so enjoy. But overall, very happy with the mod. I think it turned out fantastic, made this blaster just that much better, and I really look forward to actually using this one in the field with the new rate of fire. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed this video, got a little insight into what the Select is capable of, and hopefully, if this is something that interests you, you can do the modification yourself, follow my guide, and have a bunch of fun with it. If you want to support the channel, I would really appreciate it. Give me a like and a subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And I do have a Patreon. It would mean a lot to the channel and me if you would go check that out. I'll put a link in the description, and depending on which version of the video you are watching right now, I will put a link to the other one in the description in case you want to watch that one. And as always, I'm Travis, and I'll see you next time.